Hey guys, today is May 1st, Saturday. I spent most of the day today working at my mother's house. We've been in the process of remodeling her house, her kitchen, actually, for the last couple of months. Down to the last final things today. We're doing a little quarter round and some backsplash, finishing up her backsplash, and just spent the day there. So I came here to return my tools to my shop, and so I have about an hour or so I'm going to use in here. As Chef Tush, it's always good to use a power hour. And in that hour, you can accomplish a lot of things. And over a long time, those 1 hour increments adds up and you get a lot accomplished. So today, my primary focus will be the chassis. As you know, last night we took the Vitesse body to Richie, the paint guy, and he has now received it. So my focus now will be on the chassis, transferring the parts, prepping those parts, painting them, getting them ready to move over to the new chassis. So I thought I'd take a moment and let you see what I have in the old chassis and what I'm doing. I've rearranged the shop a little bit. I've got my the old chassis up on my car lift, so it's a much easier, more accessible height to work with it. And so let's just take a quick look. So as you can see, I've got it up on the lift right now. And so what I was going to start with is I'm going to start taking these brake lines out. And one of the first things I'll do is I'll start remaking those. I'm going to take the leaf spring off, the upper links, and all of these components, the backing plates. I'll take all of those and get those powder coated, along with the front A-arms. Get the A-arms, the springs, and all of these components right here. We'll disassemble them, cleaning them up, and get them to the powder coater. We have a powder coater we're making who does a really good job. I was really pleased with his work on the TR6. And so hopefully I'll get all these things transferred over. I'm going to order a large quantity of new stainless steel and grade A hardware. I'll use all new hardware on all of this. But I was looking at the chassis and I wanted to show you some of this rust I found that has accumulated up in here. I had not noticed that until getting this off, the body off. And original repairs that I made on this car were, when I bought this car, I bought it in Waukesha, Wisconsin. We went up there, and apparently the guy who owned it was going to have it restored. When they discovered the rust in this area of the chassis, the guy decided he wasn't going to pursue the restoration, and he put it up for sale. I bought the car. It was interesting. It was in the middle of the winter, so I had to wait several months because this car was in a storage container, actually in a shipping container, and the shipping container had been iced over. So I waited till the spring. We drove up there to go get it, and it was so froze in there, we had to get a torch to actually get rid of the ice so we could open the doors of the storage container and unload the car. But when I got it back, I pulled the body off and I welded in these plates to reinforce the weakness in that differential area. And those were crude repairs that I made early in my career before my skill level got any better. And so now my intent with this frame is I'll remove those, I'll cut this out, and I'll actually rebox this thing correctly. I'll just basically make new I-beam out of this. And so we'll have all this reworked, rebuilt, and this chassis can be used for somebody else. These things are so rare, real hard to get, so I'd hate to not have it available for somebody else down the road who may need it. I was fortunate enough to have somebody share their chassis with me, and so I'll pass that on to somebody else at a later date. But we'll get it fixed, and that'll be down the road after this project is completed, and I have some spare time. But normally I don't have spare time because there'll probably be another car that follows this one. So anyway, let me show you what I'm gonna do. Let me get some things done, and I'll come back to you. Hey guys, it's Monday, May the 3rd, and I had a little bit of time this afternoon, so I thought I would tackle taking apart the rear of this Vitesse. I got an hour or so, so I thought I would use that time wisely to disassemble this. I'm trying to get these parts off so I can get them to the powder coaters next week. So tonight I'll go ahead and start taking this apart. So I think the first thing we'll do is disconnect this emergency brake cable, and we'll start with taking it apart, take the shock off, undo the vertical link, and take off this horizontal link bar, and then we'll pretty much have it apart. So let's get busy and let's try it together. Several years ago when I put this car together, it was in the infancy of my Triumph days, and when I look back now, I see a lot of the little things that I did that I should have done differently. One was to use a much more stout cotter pin. This one was barely hanging on, and it was way too small for its size. So, which is what this color originally was, and so I was able to get that sample back today. And so I had asked some folks on one of the Triumph lists last night if they had the pay code. I had it, but I couldn't find it. It's been a while since I used it, and so but I got it, and Pam, my paint mixer, she did a pretty good job of mixing it. It looks spot on. So we'll take a look at that after we finish this and get this all together and disassembled. One of the things I was trying to decide is what kind of shock I plan on going back with. Now, there are a lot of theories on shocks. One of them is, competition shocks like Stax or Tony's. This car right here I'm putting together is not going to be what I would call a competition car, or probably not a hard driven car. So I'm not sure that I want to go back. I'm not sure that I want to go back at the expense of a Coney or a SPAC. These shocks right here, if I remember correctly, came off an early model Corvette. And I'm thinking it was like the mid 80s Corvette. And I don't remember where I got that information. I just remembered that that's what I used. And when I looked at the part number on the shock this afternoon, it did correspond to that, to a Corvette. But what was interesting is it also corresponded to several Plymouth, early model Plymouth cars as well. So again, I may consider going back with the Corvette shocks. I think they did a good job for me, for my need, and everything is based on your need. And for me, I think the little bit of driving that we'll do, maybe an autocross from time to time, but I think that the Corvette shocks did me very well. So I'll probably stick with that. Again, that was the part number on those shocks, and these were made by Monroe. So anyway, I was happy with them. I'm kind of leaning towards going back that way, but we'll see. I do know one thing I'm going to invest in this week. I finally have decided. It's funny, I was going through some drawers the other day, and I found about 8 or 9 Lowe's gift cards that I'd had accumulated over the years, and I just have never redeemed them. And so I didn't know whether or not they were still good. So I called the number on the back, and sure enough, many of them were, well, all of them were still valid. They hadn't lost any value at all. So one thing I'm thinking about going to get is a DeWalt impact similar to this, but in 3/8 and maybe in half. I may get a half and get and use a 3/8 adapter, but for I'd like to have an impact that would do those things. As many of you know, and I've said before, I worked for many years as a machinist for Northrop Grumman, and doing a lot of turning. All my machines were all manual, so when I did a lot of turning on the lathe, it just kind of wears on your hands and wrists over the years. And so I think I would enjoy having a battery operated impact wrench, so I don't have to do all this wrist turning and grabbing. So another thing, that when we put this back together, I have bought a lowering block to put underneath or on top of the spring to lower the body a little bit. Now, the thing is, I can't remember if I bought a 1 inch or if I bought pull that out and go back and measure it and see what it was. Because I just really don't remember. It is amazing how much you can get done in an hour when you get out there and get focused and get started. Now this diff is in really good shape. It has very little backlash in it at all. It's out of a GT6. I bought it a few years back, and what I do plan on doing too is I bought gasket kit, and I'm gonna change out the seals and change out all the gaskets and just reseal it one more time. But other than that, I'm just gonna paint it and put it back together. I know that it's pretty tight. And all of this hardware will be replaced. I'm kind of a stickler about that because I don't like to stretch threads. Now, I hadn't quite decided on whether I'm going to powder coat all these components in a gloss or a semi-gloss. I found that although the semi-gloss looks more authentic, more original, it doesn't clean as well to me as gloss. The gloss just seems to not hold the dirt like a semi-gloss does. So kind of leaning towards gloss. I know some people don't like that, but you know, it's okay. You'll get over it. In one of the upcoming episodes, I'm going to do an update on a couple of my friends' cars. Russ has got a TR6 that he's working on, and this just past weekend, his next door neighbor, who used to be my next door neighbor many years ago, Kenny, actually went this weekend and bought what I call a kit. He bought a chassis, a rolling frame, and all the panels all separate. And so he's going to build a TR6, but it's going to be a resto mod. He's going to build it up using probably a GM 315, I think, a small V6. That's what I think he's going to be doing. Putting a modern power plant in it. Probably a Infinity rear end So he's got a lot of fabrication ahead of him. Now, one thing about it, he is an incredible fabricator. He did a lot of some small stuff for me, sheet metal wise, on this car, and he's very good at it. But it's going to be kind of cool to have some new friends working on these cars with us. So all I need to do is break it. So all that's left is the 4 bolts on the half shaft, and it'll be apart. So I'm not going to bore you with the details of that. I'll break here a second and we'll come back. Got all the side, the driver's side components off the side, so now we'll take the spring off. And what I was fearing the most is having studs of turning on me. So, well, not all of them, but a couple of them are. So I still may have to, it may be okay, because when I add the lowering block, I'm going to have to change these studs out anyway. I think originally when I put this car together, I POR'd this spring, and over the years, and with all the movement of it, you can see it's flaking and flaking apart. So at this point, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Whether I'm just going to sandblast it or bead-blast it, get it back to the original metal, and just epoxy prime it and paint it. That's kind of what I'm leaning. Back together, so I don't lose any of these components. Another lesson learned is, originally I went to Lowe's probably, or Home Depot or something, and just bought hardware off the shelf, cheap kind of hardware. This was a budget build the first time, so all of this low grade hardware is going to be changed out. See, this nut's already stretched. It won't even get back on right. But we'll change it up. And this is what I was talking about, the flaking, that POR is just peeling off. Again, that's just not understanding that you have to clean that really well when you use POR. You can't have any kind of grease on it. It has to be immaculately clean, which at that time, obviously, I didn't do that. So that's the result. So guys, if you use POR, and it's a great product, don't get me wrong, but you've got to use it correctly, and you've got to use plenty of solvent and cleaner. It's got to be perfectly degreased, and you'll have good results. This was not the result of the product. This was the result of the ignorance of the applier, which happened to be me. So anyway, that's it. Now this is what I want to show you. So there you go, there's the rear end. All I've got to do is disassemble the hubs, and separate those components, send it out to powder coating. But what I wanted to show you now is what I've been looking forward to all day long, and that was, I got my paint sample in. And so this was the valance, I guess you might want to call it, and that was the signal red that was on it. So As I said earlier, I had somebody on the internet send me the code because I can't find my book that had the proper code, Triumph colors on it. But I wanted to show you. There's my paint, and I actually applied a little bit to this balance earlier, and I can find it. I think that's it right there. That's it right there. Now you got to remember, this is just base and doesn't have the clear on it, so the color will change and become a little darker. But that's Signal Red. This is Nason paint that I'm using, and Signal Red, and there is your Ditzler paint note code 70966 Signal Red, and that was the Ditzler paint code. So if anybody needs it, that's it right there. So guys, that'll do it for today. That's a power hour that I was able to get in. I got a lot done. As I said earlier, you can accomplish a lot in little increments. You don't need an elephant all at one time. Subscribe to the channel, and as always, God bless you and thank you so much. Have a great night, guys.